Mayor Bakoyannis, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, friends, a very warm welcome to this magnificent setting. As Achilles has mentioned, I've no doubt on several occasions, this is the 11th time the Athens Democracy Forum is gathering in the ancient agora here to gauge what is happening to the democratic ideal born among these ancient stones. I would like to thank Achilles and his team for the hard work they have put into this event, which was born in part as a celebration of the New York Times partnership with Catamarini, a partnership that celebrates its 25th anniversary this year. And I'm delighted that Alexis Papahelas, who is with us today as well, this evening as well. But since then, the forum has grown from strength to strength, and the decision to move it under the auspices of the Democracy and Culture Foundation, still with a close association with the New York Times, I believe has allowed it to flourish. Indeed, I look back at the inaugural event that we convened in this very place over a decade ago, and I recall it was a 2-hour discussion, and it now extends to 5 days. That is testament, as I've said, to Achilles and his team's vision and hard work, and to the support of the headline sponsors, Microsoft, the Climate Democracy Initiative, Arizona State University, Tiger University, and Google, and to the forum's gold and silver sponsors, EBRD, Libra Philanthropies, the Bergen Institute, and so many others you see, I hope you see on the screens. The support of the sponsors allows the forum to extend far beyond this room into the special report in today's International New York Times, distributed in over 160 countries worldwide. And your contributions, all your thinking and thoughts over the last 5 days and tomorrow, 4 days and tomorrow, will be summarized in the New York Times special edition, which I believe is going to be published on the week of October 17th. Alas, the forum's growth, though, and its enduring raison d'etre is not a reflection of the health of liberal democracies. And I'm certainly not here to proclaim the good news that in over a decade of convening these intellectually enriching and thought-provoking events, that we have reversed the global backsliding of democracy. By all the major indexes, the world's authoritarian and would-be authoritarian rulers have tightened their grip. According to the V-Dem Institute's latest democracy report, the advances in global levels of democracy made over the last 35 years have been wiped out, and we are back to 1986 levels. I think, as we heard this morning, 72% of the world's population, that is 5.7 billion people, live under autocratic rule. So our theme at the forum this year is, do we dare to hope? And as we look out at the world in which authoritarian rulers no longer feel shame at trampling on elemental liberties and actually dismiss fundamental building blocks of democracy, elections, pluralism, political participation, transparency, civil liberties, a free and independent media, as Western impositions, it is not easy to find too many silver linings. Russia has set new standards for trampling on the ideals of sovereignty and democracy, illegally invading a neighbor to block it from moving towards democratic rule and crushing it at home. The world is also watching carefully as many democracies in the West, including the United States, wrestle with an anti-democratic backlash fed by social alienation, growing wealth inequality, the internet, and all the other forces feeding far-right forces in wealthy nations. Freedom of the press is under attack everywhere, including in established liberal democracies. It is a sad fact that in many parts of the world, it has never been more dangerous to be a journalist, particularly for female journalists. This matters. I put it to you that democracy and freedom cannot truly exist without a free and independent media to seek the truth and hold power to account. So where is there hope? Part of it is that the rise of authoritarians is not evidence of a more efficient or effective means of government. The same forces that keep Putin in power, cronyism, corruption, fear, have plagued his military forces while his economy sinks deeper into crisis. The hope is in that those who believe in democracy are learning from its setbacks, that it is the purpose of that is the purpose of this annual gathering, to discover and discuss what can be done, to narrow the divisions, heal the planet, have a more equitable distribution of wealth, and in other ways to give all people a real stake in their governance and fortunes. We do dare to hope. And as a media executive, I take hope in the fact that the relationship we started here in Greece with Katerini a quarter of a century ago still endures. I take hope from the fact that this forum was born under the shadow of the deep financial crisis here in Greece and the terrible hardship that invoked for so many of its citizens. Yet, here we are, a decade later, as my colleague Liz Alderman reported in our pages earlier this week. The Greek economy is now growing at twice the Eurozone average, and that some credit rating agencies are now raising Greece's debt rating to investment grade. This country, the cradle of democracy, endures. We dare to hope. Before I close, I would like to especially thank Mayor Bakoyannis and the city of Athens, who have been staunch and faithful stakeholders of this endeavor, and has had the United Nations Democracy Fund, who've been with us from the beginning, enabled by the late Kofi Annan, whose foundation is with us, and who are inaugurating today the annual Kofi Annan Next Gen Democracy Prize. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and it's now my honor to invite Mayor Bakoyannis to the stage. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Athens. It is indeed a great privilege and a pleasure to welcome you to the birthplace of democracy. Now, of course, talking about democracy, as we heard earlier, we all know that we are going through probably the worst crisis since the 1930s. The number of countries that can be described as democracies is quite literally shrinking. Unfortunately, more than a third of the world's population is subject to authoritarian rule, while only 6.4%, let me repeat this, because it is a terrible statistic, 6.4% is enjoying full democracy. Now, of course, you're probably thinking that democracy is quite a broad concept that has been heavily overused, often misused, and in some cases misunderstood. So please bear with me as I put forward the definition. I am, like I think most of you, referring to liberal democracy, the one that was quite literally born here, just a few meters from where we stand, organically, out of the interaction of Athenian citizens, the one that developed throughout centuries in cities like Rome, Paris, London, and Boston. The political system, the most expansive and successful experiment in the history of mankind, which delegates the few to carry out the majority's will, by the people, of the people, and for the people. At its core, the rights and freedoms that ensure respect for the dignity of each individual. Now, of course, it's clearly a good thing, and I would say a necessary thing, that we have chosen to perceive individual dignity primarily through the prism of political freedom. However, we should also be sufficiently attentive to the dignity of corruption, inequality, and the lack of economic opportunity. As we continue to defend rights and freedoms we should also do more to deal with the pain and dangers of economic hardship and inequality. We should do more to respond to the need for climate justice. In other words, for a political system founded on the promise of a better tomorrow, the identity crisis is quite clear. There is a severe, but I'd say not fatal, functional flaw: the inability to deliver fair and equitable economic outcomes. This has corroded trust in public institutions, estranged the significant numbers of citizens from the government, and given rise to internal forces of division, ethno-nationalism, and repression. Now, I think that all of us agree that populism is not the answer, but it does, at times, pose the right questions. The European Union's message of no one left behind captures a major underlying need. Liberal democracies must do better at addressing the economic grievances that populists have so effectively exploited. To prevent exclusion, both our rhetoric and our policies must work in tandem. A great Greek, a great modern Greek for a change, once said that the biggest enemies of democracy are elitism and populism. The former entails policies without ethical rhetoric, or even without ethics. It suffices to technocratic hegemony, lacking legitimization and therefore effectiveness. The latter is limited to declaratory speech without effective responses to crises and problems, thus increasing polarization and the gap between elites and citizens. So, in order for all of us to make democracy convincing once again, policies and ethical rhetoric must not be separated. Or, to use a rather trendy phrase of my 16-year-old son, we have to walk it like we talk it, and vice versa. Given this environment, it is a truly fascinating time for a politician to serve at the local government. This is, after all, the closest democratic institution to the citizen. And we have a unique opportunity to work bottom-up. We have the unique opportunity to tackle global issues by drawing from the local perspective and the urban experience, which will actually allow us to better align people's needs and expectations, to bridge the distance between political institutions and the citizen. This is, ladies and gentlemen, how we build resilient democracies. Door to door, block by block, united by our shared conviction that we can and we will do better together. This is also why this event is so important for our city. This is why this event is so important for all of us. And I would like, in closing, to take this opportunity to thank my friend Achilleas Tsialtas and his amazing team, thank the New York Times, and of course our very own Kathimerini for making it possible. Welcome to Athens. Enjoy your stay.